Okay, so we're going to take some time today to talk about managing processes and not people. As some of you may know, I am a fellow business owner, and there are some parts of business that are the same, whether you're a construction company or a law firm. And we're going to talk about some of those parts. One of them is obviously people, right? And I hear people say it all the time, the hardest part of my job is managing people. And I agree with that. People are a difficult thing, but what makes it easier is when you're managing expectations instead of people, right? When you're clear about what you expect. What I've always known and I've kind of seen in this last couple of years is that people hate uncertainty. They hate not knowing what's coming next, not knowing what to expect, anything that's kind of wishy-washy and not really defined, right? And it makes people uncomfortable and it will make them find someplace else that has more certainty. So for me, how this started out is I had someone running my legal department, probably not as efficiently as it should be, and that was on me because I wasn't I wasn't a good enough leader to know what to do. And through all this, I'm learning, and like through these hard times is when you learn, right? So in January 22, the person that I had running my legal team, which is about 8 lawyers and support staff, about 15 people, left, and shortly thereafter so did most of the staff. And there's multitudes of reasons for that. It was just kind of shocking, especially when some people left with no notice at all and just walked out the door. Um, and it's part of being business, but I had to learn, come in and take over the department, fix what was going wrong and make it better. And so since January of 22, I've been steadily working on that process and learning a lot. And it's been a lot of ups and downs. And in the legal field, at least where I'm at, if you're an attorney right now, you can find a job anywhere. And for most places, if you let the job you're currently at and went down the street, you can make more money than just by changing jobs, right? And so and that's what happened to me for all of 22 and the beginning half of 23, until I realized that I wasn't doing a very good job being a leader and managing expectations and reducing uncertainty. So I realized I read E-Myth, the E-Myth book. I also read Work the System, which Josh has been on the podcast. I'm actually taking Josh's classes now to improve the things that I've done already, on how to create processes and how that frees up your life, right? And how that lets you run the business without having to be there, having to do the actual work, but lets you work on the business side, right? And so doing technical jobs like writing processes and all that is not something I do well. I'm a visionary. I can tell you where we're going. I can tell you why we're headed there. But the little things of how we're going to get there, the how personality is not what I'm very good at. So even though I needed to have these processes, and I knew for probably about a year that I needed to have these processes in order for things to get better, I tried to give the project to somebody else to work on. And they couldn't pull out what I was trying to do. And so I finally sat down and worked on it myself, right? It's like, how am I supposed to do this? Like for me, like, how am I supposed to teach a lawyer to practice law? They should know how to do that. And they do. What I had to realize, it's not that I'm trying to teach a lawyer how to practice law, or it's not I'm trying to teach a cabinet maker how to make cabinets. It's trying to teach them how we do it here, how we do it at the Cromeens law firm, how we do it differently, right? What are our processes as far as taking care of our clients? What are our processes, once we get a new client, when do we reach out? How soon do we contact them? The things that makes us different and unique as a firm are those processes that I've created. Like, how do we file things? How do we keep our clients updated on what's going on their files? What is the process for creating a contract? What's the process for reviewing a contract? I want to provide excellent results on a consistent basis. And the only way for me to do that for my customer is to let my staff know, here's how we're going to do it, right? And although the attorney still has the practice of law and all of that, but how we do it is different than anywhere else, right? And so for tons of years, I've been stuck in this place where I'm not very good at having one-on-one conversations that are confrontational, and I have to address issues. That's not something I enjoy or my strong suit. But I still had this idea that everybody should know what I know, right? You're an attorney, you should know what's important and how to do things. And how it would go is I'd hire somebody to be super pumped and they'd be smart and they'd be good at their job. I didn't clearly tell them what I wanted. And when they weren't doing what I expected, then I'd get pissed off. And I would just put up with her for a while. And then eventually I'd just go so frustrated that I fired them. And really, they probably could have done better if I was clear on what I wanted, right? I was clear on my expectations. And I wasn't good at that part. And so people kept leaving, right? And I've been stuck in this pattern for years. Um, so then, reading the E-Myth, reading Work the System, I realized that this is the way I was going to break that pattern, right? And so the idea of making processes for everything is a huge, overwhelming idea. I completely agree. And like, where do I start and what do I do? And I struggled with that for a long time. I struggled with that and trying to give it to somebody else to do. Which I don't think was successful because I probably I wasn't clear on what I wanted, and they couldn't get in my head to know what I wanted. So I started it. Here's where I started, right? For each person, I started with a job description that lists out everything that person is in charge of, right? Handling clients like my HR person, payroll, all of the stuff, all of the tasks that person is in charge of and responsible for. That's their job description. Those are the things that they do, right? Filing things, like for us, keeping the client updated, handling hearings, responding to motions. All of those things are the things that attorneys and support staff, the collection and lien and collection team that I have here, they're, have a process for making phone calls, collecting, sending letters, doing research, all of that stuff that needs to be done. Right. And so I had to create that for my legal team. So we started out with the job description, everything that you do, right? And then for everything on that list, you create a process, right? So on the attorney list, you're responsible for updating clients. What does that look like? Well, once a month, after we've had a file meeting, you send the client an update of where we were, where we are, and where we're headed. And if a case gets, there's an answer file, the case gets set for trial. We have a case strategy meeting to bring the client in, to bring them up to date with everything that's going on, where we're headed, what things look like. So it's very processed, right? So for each thing on the job description, you go into and put a process behind it. And the main thing too is that if somebody quits or somebody gets sick or something happens, you fire somebody, they have the process. They can step in. So, like an E-Myth, Work the System, this is all very much something that Ray Kroc did, or the McDonald's did, that Ray Kroc bought from them. This whole systemization of making everything a process and making it work smoothly. And that basically they knew they had a lot of turnover, so they needed something that within a day or two, somebody can walk into that position and fill it in. And that's kind of what your processes do, right? And what it does for your employees, it gives them a sense of certainty, right? This is what we're going to do today. This is how we're going to do it. And whatever is on that job description, like if at the end of the day, they bring a truck back and I got to get stocked to go out the next day, here's our process for doing that, right? Who's in charge of what? Any little thing. And obviously, you can teach them how to do the actual work, and that's important. But it's just as important as like when we get to work, how we get a job started, what are our processes internally, how we deal with the customers, how we keep our customers updated. All of that is the same. What makes you different is how you do it. And that's what you have to be able to tell your people. And here's the thing, the clearer you can tell them, most people can follow directions, right? If you give them a clear set of directions, they can follow it. And the more you take care of them, like they're, and it also allows for a lot less micromanaging. Here's the process. I'm going to trust you to do it. If you don't do it, I'm going to point out where you didn't to give you another chance to do it right. But pretty soon, if you can't follow my processes, then you just can't work here. It's fine. It's nothing personal, but this is the way we do things. And so you'll find the clearer you can make it, the easier it is to work with people, and you'll have a lot less turnover, right? And so when somebody hires, the first thing you give them is their job description, right? Here's the things you're responsible. And what I do is we have 30, 60, 90 days responsibilities. At 30 days, I want you to be doing this. At this point, at 60 days, I want you to be doing all this. At 90 days, you should be sufficient 100% in your job description. And we do check-ins, right? We have a meeting at 30 days. Bring in the job description. How is this going? Where am I seeing issues? Where do you need to improve, right? Same thing at 60 and the same thing at 90. So then it also gives you time to see if they're a fit and a reason, a probationary period in which you can let them go and they can follow, right? So it's a process that, and you actually usually know within 30 days, but 100% within 60 days if they're a fit or not. So if they're not a fit, don't try to force somebody. Just if it's clear to you that they can't follow your processes and be the team member you need them to be, it's more painful to try to make them something that they're not than to let them go and find somebody else. I promise you. So yeah, be clear about that the systems and the processes are your clear expectations, right? Just like your contract with your client is managing expectations. The same thing like with your subcontract, managing expectations. Here's how this relationship's going to work. Here's what I expect. Here's what's going to happen if you can't meet my expectations, then we can't work together anymore. But I promise you, you'll be a lot less turnover. You'll have more quality employees if you take the time to create job descriptions and then processes for each thing on that job description. I know it's a pain in the ass. It's a big project. Work on a little at a time. You're not going to knock this out in 2 days. This is, something you work on 2 hours a day, an hour a day, a couple hours a week. This is the part of where you're working on your business. That is something, because eventually what will happen is the more you do the systems and processes, the less you have to be involved in the day-to-day operations and the more time you will get back, right? So check out those books, the E-Myth, Work the System. I promise you they're worth the read, and just the getting your mind on the idea that your business needs to be able to operate without you there. And the only way it can do that is with these clear systems and processes. And it improves morale. It reduces turnover. It's amazing. So, all right, feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. Share this if it was helpful. I'm always around if you have questions, thoughts, ideas. I'm here. All right, guys, thanks.